The issue is, if there was anything bot lane, which I think is a fine idea, I think Talia should go top. But if she does go bot, focus the Rakan, because Sivir's going to be playing safe, Sivir's going to have spell shield, and I feel like it'll just kind of be a waste. So I think ganking bot is lower percentage, and also the other thing is it relies on where Evelynn starts, because it's more likely Evelynn starts bottom, just because it's stronger leash, but at the same time, Evelynn wants to do a full clear, so she might actually start blue. Now, if Evelynn does start blue, it would be much better for the Talia to actually
Right now, we've got an invade going on. Morgana walks straight into the Sivir. Sivir doesn't level the spell shield, gonna get picked off, and she's even gonna use both summoners, and that's gonna leave her wide open to a gank level 1.
I mean, that was a pretty standard invade. You hug the wall, of course, to make sure the person in Tribush doesn't have vision, but Sivir's standing in the wrong place. She's up against, bit of a DC from the mid laner, Malzahar. But essentially, yeah, so a bit of an interesting thing there by the Sivir. Now, obviously, you mentioned it during the play, but in this kind of situation, you're up against a Morgana, Jhin can start W. Obviously...
While I'm like, yeah, Mundo is the winning lane, and I want Jax behind, I want my Malzahar and my Jhin ahead more than I want Jax behind or Mundo ahead, if you know what I mean.
But also the thing to consider is it's like pick and choose your poison right now, because honestly, Truth debatably have 3 winning lanes. I'd say Cass is a bit of issue, but her mana problems early are going to actually stop her from really doing anything. And I think if Malzahar can get to level 4, level 6, etc., I think that's a winning lane. And obviously we talked about bottom lane should just be a winning lane. So it's almost like, yeah, top's winning, but every lane is essentially winning if you're Truth. I would probably say that mid is good to gank because Cass is immobile. We see Jax has to go aggressive level 1, so he's already used his E, and that's what I think that Talia should look to punish.
And Talia's actually invading with oh no, she's just getting a ward on chickens and going for scuttle. Interesting pathing. I don't think she can even see the chickens, or she could try to steal them. And Morgana taking aggressive positioning and getting punished for it as well.
The issue with this for me for Talia is, yes, this is a normal...
He gets hit with the Dark Binding as it goes in, and Jax with that aggressive trading, again, as you said, Mundo just can't hit a cleaver, and that level 2 advantage way too strong. Talia going bottom, there's no summoners here, and gets tanked right in the face, and that'll be enough damage. And there is the kill on Sivir, as you said, skill shots, but the skill shot does land, Sivir not able to juke it.
I mean, after the first one, all the others are just kind of, easy.
Yeah.
But definitely that Morgana binding, really nicely done by Sparky. You'd have to say Sivir, honestly, should have just been hugging the bot side of the lane, like pretty standard, because the fact that we could immediately see, hey, Talia's probably going to go bot, that's got to be warning bells for the Sivir. But second massive error now from the Sivir. It's only 3 minutes into the game, so let's not write her off just yet, but not the best start. Maybe a bit of nerves or something coming through for her with that pause.
And you were talking about your poison, right? But now Sivir is just lost like 2 waves into that tower, and Jhin just went back and bought a pickaxe 3 minutes into the game. Maybe you no longer have to pick your poison because bot lane's just going to destroy.
Yeah, I think you focus bot. Oh, Talia's going mid.
She's going mid. It doesn't actually choose to opt into the gank. Yeah. But yeah, now Jhin is hilariously ahead, and Sivir is hilariously behind, and she still hasn't got summoners. But there is the top gank being threatened onto Jax here, though Mundo himself is actually really far behind. He does hit level 4, though he hasn't actually missed XP.
Yep, Talia coming in now.
Talia going in, getting the E. Jax is going to jump into all those rocks, but he's not actually dead. It will just burn his flash in exchange for his life.
Yeah, so Talia, just a bit of a mechanical misplay there. She held on to the, I believe, is it the W, the knockback, or is it the E?
Yeah. W, seismic shells.
The seismic shell. So she held on to the seismic shell, I feel like a bit too long, because essentially she knows Jax has flash. She was considering some sort of mind game level process in which, if I throw it and then you flash onto it, etc. I feel like in that situation, if Talia just throws it, Jax has to flash, therefore Jax's stun doesn't land, therefore Primal can flash after with red buff Q, and he's dead. So bit of a mechanical mistake there from the Talia, but ultimately she's done very, very well so far. Get that gank off bottom, and now the gank
right now straight into the Morgana. Doesn't get the spell shield off, just going to take a good amount of damage, and Sivir just taking more and more damage, making more misplays.
I mean, that's harsh. Like, you automatically get back into the lane and already half health. So, definitely, like, this Sivir is having a very painful time in bot. And we, like, to be fair, it is the matchup, right? So you almost have to blame,
And even
the
just
coach.
the CS differentials here is pretty brutal, but he's coming in for a gank. This will be a dead
Ooh.
Morgana, not even flashing out in time, and this will be deadly for Galaxy Bear. Goes for the flash W, and the heal comes out as well. He's still alive, forces the flash from both Rakan and Eve.
Interesting there, because obviously, Eve pre-6 doesn't have a stealth. Morgana had both thumbs up, Jhin had both thumbs up. It's almost like they didn't expect it, which is odd because I think they were so focused on winning their lane, which they do win, that they forgot, wait, Talia's topside. Talia's just got a really good gank off topside. We should wait till she gets here, because look, now Talia's bot side. If the same thing happened right now, they'd be fine. So definitely not playing around their jungler well enough. Bit of an over-aggressive play there from the bot lane from Truth.
And two really important factors in that was that Jhin healed late while ignited, and so Morgana didn't get the benefit, and the Ignite wasn't even used on her, and on top of that, Morgana didn't even try to flash away. So both of those things were pretty
at
big
the point
factors.
where Eve ganked, it was too late, right? If you heal there as Jhin and then Morgana flashes, Morgana still dies, Jhin still dies. So it was kind of too late at that point. It might have been warded, maybe like the ward expired, but ultimately the issue there was more of a macro one where they didn't realize that the Eve they didn't perceive that the Eve could gank, and it wasn't so much a mechanical misplay, even though, potentially those summoners could have been used. It was more so just not understanding where enemy jungle was and not understanding where their own jungle was.
And now they had a good lead, but now look at the gold. It's gone. Like, this is not good for the side of Truth, because they got the lead they needed and wanted.
Oh, yeah.
But
I thought you meant the
gone.
80 carries, because it's still 800 gold favoring the Jhin. But yeah, in the other lanes, definitely.
In fact,
middle.
the jungle differential is insane.
Wait, where did that come from?
The Eve is so overfarmed compared to Talia, and has both the kills.
Oh, I think Talia stole. Did Talia steal camps when? I'm sorry. Did Eve steal camps when Talia went bot? I think. Wait, Eve's caught out. Eve's in the jungle with no support.
I don't think anyone's seen her though. She might just have to recall.
Oh, she's level 6.
She's going for
she's level 6.
Oh, she's level 6, going for the flank onto Jhin. Doesn't even try and use charm. Is gonna just ult away, but Dark Binding is a threat. But it goes onto Rakan. No one's taking too much damage yet. Rakan used W, but it gets cancelled. The red buff comes out. It's gonna actually take out the Malefic Vision. It's gonna take out Rakan and go onto Eve, reveal her presence a bit more. It ends up just being a 1-for-1.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it felt like it was literally a 1v3. I feel like the bot lane from Jhin and Morgana didn't really do anything. I think obviously the Eve, really good play. I didn't actually realize she was 6 so quickly.
That massive farm differential, basically.
Yeah. Definitely a great play by her, though, to get behind the enemy team. I think it was completely surprising for them. Jhin flashes out. Oh.
Yeah, huge. Actually, Cassiopeia ults early, and then the Mundo flash is enough for him to just get out of there, but the Malzahar TP invested anyway.
Yeah, a bit of a mechanical misplay there from Cassiopeia. Ultimately, she engaged with her ultimate. She should have used the W. What the W does, it slows them down, makes her all easier to hit, and also means that, obviously, purple...
and getting engaged onto Jhin, but the W will miss Grand Entrance, not quite enough range.
Yep. So, as I was saying with the Cassiopeia, when she puts her purple poison cloud on the ground, you can't flash out of it, you can't use any... It slows you down, and then you hit the ult. So, and also, obviously, you can hit the Q easier when they're on that as well. So, a bit of a mechanical misplay there by the Cass. Mundo's still having to flash, though. And this is looking pretty bad for Truth. And we say this because it's not so much that they're behind 1,000 gold as a team, because that doesn't matter so much because of who it is. But that being said, right, who it is can translate into who it isn't. So the idea is, yes, Cassiopeia is 100 gold behind Mal's, and Sivir is 500 gold behind Jhin. But at the same time, because Eve is so fed, if she can translate that lead into her lanes through ganking and counter ganking, I think that could be really dangerous for Truth. If nothing else, if Eve just stalls out the game, then it's really good for Storm reasons.
Yeah. And that's what we're saying, right? It's on Eve to try and stall out the game, and then Eve gets hilariously far ahead. And now there's a TP play coming in bottom. Eve also coming in. The spell shield gets burnt onto Jin, and it's actually going to keep him alive a little bit longer. It looks like there will be a trade back onto Rakan. And now there's so many members bot lane. The second Dark Binding hits onto Jax, and he'll go down as well as the Nether Grasp on Malzahar goes onto the Sivir. Not able to be special, but Eve is going for this Morgana kill. She has ulti, but only gets the creep and gets Dark Binded to the ground and will get taken out for the shutdown.
Unlucky there for the Eve. I think the issue was the bush was watered. If it wasn't, they wouldn't have known Eve was there, but because it was, obviously if you're standing next to a bush, the bush is watered and Eve's in it, and you're in the
actually,
you can see it.
A quick fun fact about Eve passive. If you're within range, but it's only a ward that would have revealed Eve to you, it actually doesn't work.
Oh really? So they couldn't see the Eve?
They couldn't see Eve, but the fact that Dark Binding spawns on your character meant that because the empowered Whiplash just put her literally on top of Morgana, Dark Binding was instant, Eve couldn't ultimate and instead gets shut down.
I didn't actually know that, I'm going to be honest. That's interesting. Okay, cool. So they didn't know Eve was there, so I was going to say misplay from Eve, but actually I suppose, oh yeah, of course, because there's the indicator above her head, so she would have known if she was seen or not. Interesting. Okay. But yeah, definitely unlucky there. If she had somehow managed to ult the binding, right? I think that would have been it. But then again, Morg might have lived very low, so maybe the play wasn't the best to go for. But essentially, I like... Oh.
There's engage onto Malzahar. He has to flash away, but he's got that passive up just in time. Eve perhaps not clicking onto Malz, looking at the timer left for the passive to come back up, and gets burnt by it.
Yeah, I mean, I think she had blue smite up the whole time, so she could have used that to extinguish, but obviously probably just not expecting it. It's kind of awkward, right? Because, you know, obviously Malzahar shield, it doesn't regenerate in combat. You throw the W on Eve, that doesn't count as in combat. That's something to remember. So it wouldn't have stopped his shield regeneration. So maybe just a little unlucky there, but ultimately, you know, Eve had smite, could have used the smite to blow it, to blow the shield, and then obviously Q to proc her charm. So there is that to consider. But at the same time, right, let's talk about what Stormrazers are doing well. Now, we have seen the gold switch back onto, of course, Truth, with that block tower, with that really good fight bottom as well. And yeah, just ultimately a couple failed Cassiopeia ults, but not too important. But that fight bottom, I know it was a long time ago, but let's just go back to it quickly. That was essentially the Morgana Rakan difference. And it might not seem like it because it was a 4v4, there were a bunch of TPs, might have even been a 5v5 if the mid laners were involved as well, but ultimately what happened is Rakan got a really good engage, and so did Eve. The issue was Jin had Black Shield, and on top of that, they couldn't go for Morgana, she's too far back, and then Eve dying at the end because of the Morgana. So I think this Morgana pick is doing a lot of work, but remember, Stormrazers, what they got to do is they have to somehow just stall the game out, stop bleeding these objectives. They just lose, obviously, Infernal Drake a little bit ago as well. And try and somehow, you know, delay the game with the Sivir and the cast. Really good at stalling.
Oh, and the Mother Grass actually going in on mid lane. The flash gets invested, but it's so bad, going straight into the wall. And meanwhile, top, this play going on, and the Fed Eve one-shots Jin, and meanwhile, Morgana, not having the Blood Shield for herself, is just going to get charmed down by the Rakan quickness, and Morgana's just left to run away. The stopwatch gets invested, but there's no ultimate left onto the Mundo. No more regeneration, instead just dies.
Interesting that the Morgana didn't have her Black Shield. That's quite odd to me because obviously, you know, that the whole point of the concept is to prevent that engage. So I'm just watching the replay again. So Morgana has Black Shield, and she just doesn't use it. She had it the whole time.
Not able to use it before, but in fact, she teleports in. She's going to get the ultimate onto Talia, and she's not going to die, but almost. But the teleport punished really hard by just instantly killed off by Talia and Malzahar.
Yeah, I did just miss that, but I assume Cass TP's in to try and save the tower. Right on top of the Talia Mal's, and then just gets blown up. Is that kind of what we saw? Okay.
Talia Mal's seismic shove into the two of them, and she dies.
Alright, now going back to that play top, Morgana had Black Shield the entire time. Just watching the replay of that. So that is interesting, because she, you know, that play again, we talked about it, the Rakan-Morgana matchup is super, super important, and with an Eve as well. Like, the Morgana should almost just be maxing the E, you want to say? But that would be a little troll, but you know what I mean, right? The E is so important. To have it up and not use it, and then lose your AD carry like that, seems pretty bad. But ultimately, you know, that's just mechanics and doesn't matter too much in the grand scheme of things. But still, it's a little disappointing to see coming out from the Morgana. So now what are we looking at? Well, the gold deficit again has shrunk. Actually, I believe it stayed the same, 1.5k, which is good again for Stormrazor, because if you're going even, then you're actually winning.
We have Eve just sitting around waiting for a play. We could easily see another engage, the bottom lane of Truth Gaming perhaps going to go down again. We'll have to wait and see how this goes.
One thing to consider is there's actually a 1500 gold lead somehow on the Malzahar. Obviously 2 kills up, but that is huge. That's obviously, you know, maybe... No, I don't actually know where that's come. Maybe it was the shutdown onto the Eve.
That would have been
definitely interesting. Like, look at that, 1500.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
But meanwhile, top, they're going for another play. Rakan gets a 3-man quickness, and Eve's going to go in, almost get the Talia, but she flashes out. But actually, the ultimate puts her right back into the Morgana binding, and Mundo's going to go in, but he's low, and he's going to get taken down. He's got no stopwatch, and the Malzahar, though, will do some damage with his Nether Grasp and take down the Jax. But Eve's still looking for a play. She gets spotted out, though, and she has nothing to protect herself, and it's just going to get obliterated.
And that's unfortunate. That's the second time in a very similar situation. We see the Eve go. She sees, you know, her damage onto the Talia or the Jhin is going to be insane. Not quite managing to make it work, but I like the ideas coming out of Stormrazor because they know we have to do something disruptive that doesn't necessarily have to work. It just has to delay whatever Truth's trying to do. But Truth Gaming, on the other hand, their mid lane, their bot lane, looking very, very good. The Talia has got to that point where she just destroys in team fights, and the Mundo is tanky, which is basically what Mundo does. So now, of course, Herald at the same time, it's going to be very difficult to stop them. Cassiopeia and Sivir are going to be really important in terms of just wave clearing, defending, and counter engaging. Of course, with the Jax, he's kind of the king of counter engage. But yeah, it's looking very, very dangerous here with only a 2k gold lead still. Looking very dangerous for Stormrazors. I think Truth Gaming are in really good position, and how they use this Herald could actually affect the outcome of the game significantly.
Yeah, and the Herald's going to be impactful in some way, right? Because all tier 1s are down. There's not much defense in terms of they can use it anywhere and get a tier 2 probably.
Yeah, I mean, the main concept with a Herald is you want to basically win a fight and then blow the Herald. I feel like if you're forced to just blow the Herald just for a tier 2, you've almost just wasted potential, right? As we see a bit of a dragon fight.
Yeah, and if they do get that fight, that is obviously an easy inhibitor, but there could just be a fight created by the fact that Herald is rushing down these objectives and acting as that giant tank for you.
I mean, the issue with that concept is that it's so much easier to clear a Herald that has been popped. Oh.
Yeah, and the Jax actually has that really heavy 1v1 build with the Blade of the Ruin King first item. We've seen this on kind of Gnar, right? But it's been shifted instead to Jax. The same kind of idea of, I'm going to win the split push, I don't care about team fights. But perhaps we don't really like that simply because we've talked about how much we want the Jax to be in the team fight to be scaling up. So perhaps the 1v1 not exactly what we imagined, but could definitely still work.
I mean, it makes sense, right? You're up against a Mundo. You want to do that damage to...
Jax actually goes in on Talia and gets immediately blown up. He has no defenses, and they're actually Nether Grasp onto Rakan, but he just dashes away onto Evelyn. The Nether Grasp not nearly enough damage on it by itself to take out Rakan.
Yeah.
And in fact, here is the Rift Herald being used after the Jax's death.
Yeah.
It's going to charge the mid lane. Go for it.
sorry. I was just going to say that Malzahar ult was a full.
Oh, in fact, Rakan goes in really hard with the engage, but he's so low and he's not going to be able to live very long with no follow-up and the Cassiopeia ult being used as well. He's going to try and get something. He's actually going to get the double kill, following the Mundo flash and taking out 2 people for the price of 1.
That is really, really good for Stormrazers. They still went even in the fight. I believe that was a 2-for-2, but and obviously, they're losing their tier 2. That sucks, but they kept
It's
the
actually
tower.
A 2-for-1 because the 2 members that got caught out didn't quite die. It was just very close.
Oh, right, okay. So, yeah, but it's essentially very, very good for Stormrazers there. Even though the gold lead is now larger, and yes, you just lost another tower, that was Rift Herald. And I feel like we were both considering, hey, Rift Herald is going to break the base, that's going to take an inhib. So realistically, losing just a tier 2, because ultimately that you're going to lose that regardless, just from the Rift Herald pop, assuming they don't run out of time. Just losing a tier 2, I think, is pretty good. And again, if this game gets to 35 minutes, it's heavily Stormrazers favored, obviously. So
yeah,
I think very good defense there. And again, the Sivir, the cast, it's so hard to push. The only real way to do it is you want a 1-3-1. So probably put the Malzahar in the side lane, or the Talia, but probably the Malzahar is better. And ultimately, you want to split up the cast and the Sivir. So, hey, Sivir's going to wave clear one lane, cast to wave clear the other. Third lane, it's over. Now, I want to talk about the Jax build because I think it'll come into play later. He's opted to not go Tiamat at all. And I think this is really significant because, again, the wave clear, because the team fighting, he'll have less burst. He also hasn't gone Triforce, so again, he'll have less team fighting potential, longer cooldowns, etc. He has gone the Kindle Gem, but ultimately the idea with the Bork is literally, I'm going to 1v1 this Mundo, and I'm going to use like one combo because he's going to run out of mana, he's not going to have the burst or the CDR, and he doesn't have the wave clear. So interesting decision by the Jax. It's almost like he wants to team fight because he hasn't gone Tiamat, but then he wants to split push because he's gone Bork.
And he's squishy as, like, we saw him just evaporate earlier when he tried to engage on Talia, going through all of those E shards on the ground. So he's definitely not built for team fighting until he gets at least another item. So he's a split push king, but he's been roaming mid, trying to stick with his team anyway, so kind of strange. But yeah, right now, Truth is setting up a death bush, and that's Rakan gone. Perhaps the Nether Grasp a bit overeager, I think. It definitely guarantees but it just depends how much you value Rakan, and you definitely could value Rakan highly. So
yeah, I mean, Rakan has been the big issue in a lot of these fights when they have either lost or gone even, because it's not so much the Eve, it's more the Rakan setting up the Eve, right? Oh.
And right now, they're actually getting turned on. They haven't finished the Baron yet, and the jungler's actually going to move away, but Eve's going to die as well. They're tanking the Baron. Jax is going to try and finish it, but it's just way too much damage. He's not going to be able to finish it, and instead, 3 members will die on the side of Stormrazers, and it will actually be the cleanup on Sivir probably here, unless she can actually run away with the spell shield protecting her and then the passive. But Talia's very fast, but she's not actually opting to running her down despite that massive move speed buff from rock surfing.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately Talia wants to reset your Sivir, yeah, you can kill her, she's not really worth that much gold. You honestly are looking to end the game, so Truth is kind of this bigger fish sort of mentality. But yeah, ultimately that Jax, I feel like a super weak point compared to the Mundo. Because yeah, sure, like Mundo's maybe his score doesn't look that great, but I mean, he's doing his job, right? In team fights, he's a massive tank. He's running in and, killing whoever is in the way. And he's, even if he's not doing anything, he's creating pressure, right? Like, Sivir can't walk up, Cass can't walk up, they'll die. In saying that, though, I liked that idea of that fight from Stormrazor because they're in the Baron pit, right? So they're obviously taking increased damage. You have a super good, like, lockdown and team fight. We saw the Cassiopeia ult, the Sivir splash damage, etc. The only issue was the Jax isn't as big as you need him to be because he's gone for that Bork build that doesn't even have a Tiamat for the split pushing, so it's weird, but whatever. You don't have that Jax threat, and you didn't have the Rakan because he got picked out before the Baron.
And then, on top of that, we're seeing Spirit Visage as the second item, and I don't really understand the purpose of this, but as you can see, he can win the 1v1 pretty handily with that Bork.
I mean, yeah, so Spirit Visage Bork, that's like a Season 3 or Season 4 Jax build, and the only real concept with it is literally 1v1ing. But the problem is, if you're 1v1ing without Tiamat, then you can't really be in a side lane as Jax, because you don't have any mana, and you don't really have any wave clear. So I think Tiamat would be a super good investment for him if he's going to split. And if he's going to group, is he literally just going to dive Mundo in team fights? Because Mundo's not the issue. The issue is the Jhin, and right now the Talia as well.
Yeah, and now I think it's just on Rakan, right? Like, he's been the carry, he's been the one getting these engages, and he's going to have to do it again.
I think Rakan and Eve, if they work together well, they can pick them off, because, yes, they're so far ahead on Truth, but, you know, look at who the gold's on, right? You've got a lot of gold on Mouse, a lot of gold on Jhin, and a lot of gold on Talia, all three very squishy. Zhonya's on Mouse, but the other two...
Oh, they're going to go for a pick here, but Rakan's just going to burst it down, and so is Sivir. All three barely escape with their lives, but Eve goes back in, gets baited by the stopwatch, and not even Talia will go down at the end of the day, as the Jhin ulti comes out deadly for the two remaining targets, but it doesn't look like it's going to find any kills, just force them off the tower, ensure the inhibitor.
It was kind of unfortunate there, because you could see what they wanted to do. The problem is that Eve kind of, I don't want to say got caught, but almost, oh, well, now she got caught.
Yeah, and she goes for the kill.
She blew the trigger, she, you know, pulled the trigger a little bit too early. Essentially, she started the fight with the Talia with the Jhin, and then she had to ult out, and then Rakan engaged, right? And obviously your ult does execute damage, and just in general, you know, with your stealth and your W and the way you play Eve, you want Rakan to engage and you follow up, but it was the opposite. And so a little bit unlucky there.
Oh, Rakan actually getting caught here, and will just get instantly melted. There's actually, we haven't even talked about it yet, but there's triple Infernal on red team.
I mean, ultimately, it's not really going to change the game that much. Like, yes, it makes them scale a lot better, makes them a lot stronger now, but I feel like if they, you know, with or without the Infernal, they'd still be massively ahead, right?
Yeah.
It's been, this is the thing, is because Stormrazor, it's like, it's not luck, it's skill. But it's essentially, they've had these opportunities to change the game. There was that fight bottom, there was the fight top, there was the Baron, there was just that thing just then by the bot tier 2. They've had these opportunities, and it feels like every time they fumble it through either mechanics or decision-making or communication, or just maybe, you know, someone's in the wrong spot. It's not luck, because obviously, you know, the better you are, the higher your, you know, percentages go up, but you almost have to feel bad for them because they're so close, right?
In fact, Cassiopeia here, just barely staying out of vision, gets caught by the Morgana, and that should be enough damage with the ultimate missing that she's just going to get taken out. And now another free pick with top lane shoving, with bot lane and mid inhibitors down, means that this shove top is going to be really brutal.
And you see what I mean? Like, that is exactly what happened. Oh dear. Bit of a pause. Hopefully that's not a rage quit. But essentially, well, you never know at this level. Essentially, that is so similar to the Rakan pick before Baron, right? It's the same situation, not respecting the Morgana. See, the thing is, I think Cass just thought, oh, you know, Morgana stunned me. She doesn't realize, wait, Jhin has a W, and then they have a Talia, right? Like, even if Talia doesn't get onto her, the Jhin ult, right? So, mid has that bad brain lag. Just looking at this chat.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Essentially, it's just, you have to, like, Stormrazors definitely don't deserve to win, but it's just, the way they're losing is just so painful, right? Like, they had an idea, they had a concept, and I feel like it kind of fell through, right? So, at this point, like, we don't want to say, like, the game's over. It's looking very dangerous, very for Storm. And, you know, Truth, they've played okay. I wouldn't say they've played particularly well. It's more so that I think Storm has tried to do stuff and then failed, rather than Truth have really, you know, made plays, right? So, yeah. Truth have played well. I think hats off to them. Not too many mistakes. I think, you know, there was that early bot lane thing was kind of wacky, but ultimately I feel like this has been Stormrazor throwing more than it's been Truth winning.
Yeah, but if we were to say, okay, who is the MVP of this game, right? Like, that's a thing that happens in, like, of course, like, professional leagues. Then we would probably give it to the Morgana, right? Like, it's the bindings. Maybe it's just Morgana as a champion rather than the player, like, piloting it. But just the fact that these bindings have just single-handedly destroyed Evelynn and gotten pick after pick after pick has just been huge for this game.
I mean, I would say the MVP is probably the coach for. I'd say the MVP is probably whoever. the comp for Truth. But honestly, inside of the game, yes, Morgana's been impactful, but I feel like I would probably say Talia, right? She's been more consistent. She's always been in a pretty good place.
Oh, and there's the Flash ultimate, and actually going on to Talia, but Jack's immediately blown up, and Rakan's trying to get an engage off, trying to get something going, but there's already 2 damage dealers down, and they're just going to follow with Eve trying to take out the backline, but goes straight into the, actually gets a pick onto Talia with the Whiplash, but that'll be the whole ace and the game for Truth.
Yep, so game over. Actually, I want to change my pick. I want to say, because I just remember Evelyn, not Evelyn, Talia's pathing early game was really, really bad, right? So Eve got that massive gold lead. So I would actually probably say Malzahar then, is probably actually my pick.